Our first guest tonight is a United States Senator from New Jersey and a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Please welcome back to the show, Senator Cory Booker. How are you, Senator?
I'm doing well. It's been a long stretch, but it's really good to be on with you. Thanks.
It's been a long stretch, and there's a lot going on for you. You're running for re-election. Obviously, you're helping in the presidential campaign. There are Senate Judiciary Committee hearings. How are you holding up?
Look, I'm well. What worries me is about the nation, the state of New Jersey and our country, as we are in the midst of the fourth largest mass casualty event in the history of the United States after the Civil War, World War II, and the pandemic of 1918, and it's growing. And to see so many folks who are not only facing these health challenges, but the resultant financial challenges, with 40% of American families who have children in food insecurity and eviction crises and more. So we are a country that, for lack of a better way of putting it, is walking through the valley of the shadow of death. And it's just been a frustrating stretch that instead of the Senate getting to work on meeting that crisis, we have been rushing through a Supreme Court justice in a way that has never before seen in history when there's an ongoing election, as opposed to really focusing on the hurt and the pain and the challenges that our fellow Americans are facing.
I'm wondering if behind the scenes, your colleagues across the aisle feel any shame about the hypocrisy of what they did to Merrick Garland and how they're rushing through this confirmation with just weeks before the election.
You know, there's been times in the last 4 years that I've definitely seen people express private outrage at the behavior of this president, how he tramples our norms and breaks our traditions. Unfortunately, with this Supreme Court justice, I've seen no remorse. But it's painful to have the actual words, the exact things that my colleagues said months ago, that they would not do this. It is one of those more jarring, almost whiplashing times of mine in public life where you see somebody say explicitly that they will not do this, and if they do, use my words against me, as one of my colleagues said, and then now to see it exactly happening. And this is not just hurting maybe those Democrats who are against this. It's actually shredding the fabric of our country and our culture and our institutions, because one of the great important things in a democracy for us to function is to have trust in our institutions, trust in truth, trust in each other's word. This is a time where we don't live in a country where it's authoritarian rule, where one who is strong enough gets to rule the others. We're a nation that necessitates grace and compromise and a willingness to work together and to find common ground. And unfortunately, I think this episode is going to have lasting damage to our country, and obviously putting a person on the Supreme Court for a lifetime appointment, this is going to be felt for a generation or two.
You were, of course, referring to Senator Lindsey Graham and the use my words against me. His hypocrisy has obviously been on display. And yet we sort of had the hearings for Judge Barrett that even one of your colleagues, Dianne Feinstein, afterwards complimented Lindsey Graham for how the whole thing was run. Do you worry that the Democratic Party didn't do enough to show how illegitimate these hearings were and how unfair this whole process has been?
Yeah, I actually think that we did. A lot of times the things that we do don't understandably grab the headlines, but I think that this has been a time where the chorus of not only my caucus of fellow Democratic senators, but the voices of so many Americans, Republicans, heck, even 2 Republican senators on their side came and said, nah, this is not right. But I've been grateful to see people on both sides of the aisle coming forward, even about 100 Notre Dame professors saying kind things about the nominee, but just saying this is not right, this is wrong. And at a time where, frankly, we have a president who is openly saying he will not support necessarily a peaceful transfer of power, that if he loses, this election is rigged, telling extremist groups to stand back and stand by. It's a time where all of us should be concerned about the coming election and frankly, doing everything we can to affirm our common values and our common virtues, not just voting. To me, that is a grave urgency. But this is going to take a time, I think, in our country where many of us are going to have to step up in a spirit of civic grace in a spirit of trying to make this nation more of a beloved community to help get us through what I think is going to be a tough period.
You had to ask the nominee whether or not she condemns white supremacy, whether or not she supports a peaceful transfer of power. Were you satisfied with her answers?
I was stunned, actually, that there was a lot of things she just refused to answer, things that I can only imagine that in the years preceding this, that every appointed judge or nominated judge on both sides of the aisle would find the questions almost ridiculous, like, do I support a peaceful transfer of power? Of course I do. Do I think that climate change is real? That a lot of the questions that she just refused to even express her affirmation of was a little bit disturbing to me. And when it comes to issues of race, which is another issue I explored with her, I was actually sort of surprised that someone of renowned scholarship and writing could not express to me really any kind of critical or even curiosity to read a lot of the literature that's out there about how our legal system is so affected by race and how we still are a nation that has a justice system that has disparate impact on people based upon the color of their skin or the wealth that they have. As one of my heroes, Brian Stevenson, says, we have a criminal justice system that treats you better if you're rich and guilty than if you're poor and innocent. And so to not be able to even speak to that makes me worry about how, when you are asked to preside over cases that I think demand, first and foremost from a judge, the ability to show true empathy and understanding of both sides of an issue, but yet you haven't examined with any depth, scholarship, or deep curiosity. It makes me really worry about you in any way being able to make our justice system more equal, more accessible, and more legitimate in the eyes of the diversity that is America.
I want to talk more about race and diversity and the ways in which the president brings your name up. And we'll be right back with more from Senator Cory Booker right after this.